All right, you guys, I am here with Dr. Victoria Grinman. Victoria, welcome to Seeing Other People.
Thanks, Alana. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. You are a therapist, you have your own business as a therapist. There's also so much more to you as a person, which I like to remind everyone. We have a lot of experts on this podcast, but I love also getting into the backstory of who you really are and what you've been through and what led you to here and now. And so I am so excited to have you on and can't wait to get into this conversation. So,
Mm.
tell us a little bit about, before we dive into it, what made you want to be a therapist? What do you specialize in? Just to give some color.
Yeah. So, what made me want to be a therapist is just really being very, very interested in people. I think from a very young age, I had a wonderful, complex, dynamic childhood, I think, and have always been into acting and being on stage and performance. And digging into characters when I was a kid led me to digging into myself, to other people. The most appropriate way to actually express that in the world is to become a therapist. And
Yeah.
so it's been honestly amazing. It's been wonderful. And I specialize in lots of different things. I'm a trauma informed therapist. I use an integrative approach. And so, in the beginning of my career, I worked a lot with young kids and teenagers, lots of families, and now in my private practice, a lot of families still, children and teens as well, but a lot more couples, parents, families. I love working with people related to their relationships. And then the other side of my practice, which I love so much, is mentoring therapists and coaches on actually creating sustainable and value driven practices.
All of that is incredible. And it's so interesting. Like anytime I talk to anyone in this field, it always goes back to like having an interest in people and like what makes people behave and act the way they do. And it comes from such a genuine place. And I really love that about the therapy field. And so I just always love to hear that. It's really cool for me. Um, as a therapist who has worked with so many couples, I know you have also gone through a divorce, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're definitely going to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And to kick us off, I'm kind of curious, like you have helped so many people navigate their relationships. So I'm wondering how your personal experience of, you know, getting married and being in this marriage and going through a divorce kind of reshaped your approach to maybe your therapy or how you view, love and commitment.
Oh, God. Love this question. And how much time do we have? It's limited. But yeah, no, I love this question. And I actually really, I think I even texted you before this, appreciate the question in this format because so many of the times we're talking about our expertise and we're not always talking about the things that really matter, that really connect other people to us, which is the human experience. And I know there's a lot of taboo stuff around having things out there about yourself as a therapist, but I really do think that it's part of who we be in the world. And so it's
Yeah.
okay. But thank you so much for asking me about my divorce. So when I was in my 30s, my early 30s, I got married and I, and it was a very, very short marriage. So I was asked very, very early on. I said yes very, very early on, and the ball started rolling. And it's interesting what I do now, which is like really supporting therapists and coaches and creating their private practices. Because one of the things that I say, and art imitates life here, slow down and slow the roll. Because the most important thing that we want, like the thing that we want most all of the time is certainty. I wanna make sure I have the outcome. I wanna make sure I'm in a relationship, I'm settled, I'm doing all the things, and we want the certainty that it's going to work out and we're gonna have it. But certainty comes from clarity as well. The space of clarity and knowing who you be, what you desire, what's a match, what isn't, and all of that comes from within. It doesn't come from
Yes.
what it looks like externally. Little did I know that the ball was rolling and I could stop it. I know that I could. Nobody was holding, a gun to my head and nobody was saying you can't stop. But I think at the time, because of where I was in my life, um, the ball felt like it was just too fast. It's almost like a truck that's coming down the street, like you're not gonna stand in front of it. You're gonna stand to the side and just watch it happen, and that's pretty
Yeah.
much what was happening. I was like, "All right, well, let's see where this goes." And I think inside I always knew, and in my actions, it was like walking up a mountain that was really, really high. It was like so,
Mhm.
so difficult. I think the decision to end the marriage and leave, so many people say something about the person, but truly it's really my life, my stage, my like he was a character, he's, beautiful person, character in my story, and certainly taught me a lesson. And it's helped me with my clients as well because they see, it's like when you go through it and you've done it, you see it. That's why we're
Mhm.
experts, right? I'm the expert, but you're the authority on your life. So I can't make you do anything based on my advice or my expertise. But yeah, it really taught me how to slow down,
Yeah.
and look within and ask the right questions. So dating since then has been exponentially interesting, let me
I
tell you.
cannot wait to get into it. Before we do, I thank you for sharing that story. And yeah, I do think it is so interesting how it is socially like can be taboo for a therapist to share parts of their life and for their clients to know about it, but I feel like the best way to help people is by opening up and is by saying like, hey, I've been through this too. And so I love that you're here and sharing this. And my first thought when you said like we all want this certainty that our life is going to be the way we think or that it's going to work out with a person with the situation. I actually had a conversation with a friend last week where she's been seeing this guy she really likes, and she said like she brought up the like am I your girlfriend kind of conversation, and he was like I don't know that I'm ready for that yet, but like I'm not seeing other people, like I think we're going in that direction. And she was saying how she wants that certainty and to feel secure, and I said to her I'm like, well, you could get into a relationship and you could break up. You could get engaged, you could call off the engagement. You can move in together and move out. You can get married, you can get divorced. And so I think that so relates to what you were saying of like the only certainty is from within of like I know who I am, I know what I want, and kind of grounding yourself in that will really help you get through each step of any situation. I think that was a really important takeaway for me, especially as an anxious person, to realize. But yeah, so okay, I'm curious, going a little bit more into your relationship, and just for anyone else who might be kind of on that mountain, climbing it really steep. Oh my god, we have matching Owala.
I love it.
Love,
He did not,
love.
yeah, he didn't plan that.
Did you ever feel like you were looking at, you said you were in your early 30s when you got married, and I imagine you had a lot of other friends around you also getting married, getting engaged, like in that time. Were you ever thinking like, okay, here's where how I feel about my relationship, but here's what I'm hearing other people feel about theirs, and something's different?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think one of the toughest things looking back is and having so much compassion, and I just even feel it in my body now, like, there's just, there's this compassion for myself there. There is this knowing all along that there is something not right here, and what I mean by not right, not because, again, he was so bad, the relationship was so it's just it was such a misalignment.
Mhm.
And and when I would look at others and recognize, right, you kind of almost wanna fit it in, like, almost wanna be it's like what I tell the therapist that I work with, like, you wanna be like that therapist that you're seeing on Instagram, but you'll never be them because you're you, and so there's no getting away from yourself. So
Mhm.
and the comparison game is a dangerous one because there's nobody that has all the needs and all the wants that you do. And so when you're comparing to what someone else has as an outcome, it's an illusion. And
Yeah.
we get into this, spiral of I just want the outcome. I just want the outcome. But how many people, and I see this in my work all the time, have the outcome. They have the relationship, they've got the kids, they've got the house, they've got the money, they've got everything, and they're just so unfulfilled. Why?
Yeah.
It's not because of the outcome. It's because of who you become on the way to the outcome.
Yeah.
And if you really slow it down, you realize like you start to recognize, that who you're becoming changes. And then once you get to the outcome, it might not even be the guy that you thought in your mind or on your vision board. It might be
Mhm.
like a 5'4" guy who's not 6 foot tall. He's not in finance. He doesn't have blue eyes, you know, and he's just safe and it feels good. You feel good with him or her, right? And that's really what we want to get to.
I think it can be really hard when you're in a situation where, like you said, like he wasn't a bad guy. There was nothing wrong with him. I think sometimes it's harder when there's nothing quote unquote wrong, but that doesn't mean it's right either. So you can have that voice in your head saying, like, I don't know, maybe this isn't, what I wanted it to be. But also, like, here's a perfectly wonderful person that, I can mold myself to be with and we can have a fine nice life together. Like, am I going to walk away from this almost like safety net to the unknown where maybe I won't meet somebody, or maybe I will be, single for however long. Like, maybe I'll end up getting into a bad relationship and this is a fine relationship. So that can be part of the reason I think why we stay in relationships that aren't right for so much longer than we should.
Yeah, so much fear out there. And again, the fear of the uncertainty, just like not knowing and wanting the certainty that it's going to be okay. And so
Yeah.
it's how do we get away from that?
Right.
How do we work through that? You work through that by slowing down and
Mhm.
doing the inner work. And I know that you talk to a lot of people about the inner work, so this isn't new to you or this conversation, but it's really a matter of knowing. It's a knowing. It's a faith. I don't mean to get spiritual on you, but it's faith-based. It's kind of when we talk about it in manifestation and really creating things in your life. Um, my lesson in 2024 was actually when I look back was actually in wanting and desiring something and letting it go at the same time. And
Yeah.
how do you do that? It's a faith and a knowing that if I'm in desire of it and it's pregnant in the universe, like it has to be mine. How?
We don't know
Oh my
yet.
God. I have no idea. And that's Alana, that has become in the last, I want to say in the last 6 months, like so fun. Like I'll wake up in the morning and be like, like, who am I going to meet and who am I going to talk to? And like, what event am I going to be invited to? I get invited to a lot of things. Like, I'm going to say yes. And what am I going to wear? And who am I going to meet? And what am I going to say? And what's the conversation going to be? If I go on a date, like, I wonder, it's become fun to manifest rather than this like holding on for dear life, wanting to make
Mhm.
sure that this one is it. Does that make
Well,
sense?
absolutely, and I think it's also a matter of you're open to opportunity rather than going into a date thinking, "Oh, like, it's gonna be another date that doesn't work out," or going to an event where you're thinking, "Okay, like, how do I walk into this where I don't look, like, really anxious and nervous because 'cause I'm walking in here alone, and, like, is it gonna be fun or is it gonna suck?" Like, you're open to experience and opportunity and whatever comes your way, and I think that's the most beautiful way to walk through the world because it also radiates off of you.
Mm.
And that will attract people to you. That will attract you to people who are, going through the world the same way. And I think that's absolutely how you get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah, it's all about energy.
Yeah.
The reason people are attracted to you, is because of how they feel when they watch you. The reason people are attracted to certain therapists or certain experiences is because of who they are in
Hmm.
their presence and in their company. It's not what someone looks like. I
Yeah.
work with couples all the time, and I was just actually sharing this with someone last night. that actually a client, I was sharing this with a client who was asking me about looking good. Like it's so important to look good. He's a business owner and he's trying to be more authentic and it's really important to look good. And what if they don't like me? What if I don't get those high end clients? Because like they see more of the vulnerability in me. First of all, people are attracted to vulnerability. It's a very, very beautiful energy. And secondly, when you can see yourself in another person and, and yourself reflected back at you through them, it's a very attractive thing. And people are attracted to who they are with you, not what a woman looks like so of course it's nice to get dressed for a date and keep upkeep in your hair and the skin and all of those things, but when it comes down to it, in couples work, people are always asking me, I did everything. I looked the part. I cooked, I cleaned, I looked the part. Why did he go off and fall in love with her? Or, and they're just dumbfounded because they don't understand what they don't have that the other person does aesthetically or,
Mhm.
externally. But it's how a person makes you feel that attracts you to them. So many times in a relationship, when we talk about infidelity or we talk about like a disconnect, it's very seldom what's happening externally, and it's very much often what's happening internally and how people are connecting. And
Yeah.
so if we work on that, water seeks its own level.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the inner work, and I'm glad you brought that up, even though, we hear it all the time, like, "You have to do the work, you have to do the work." What did the work look like for you when it came to, realizing, "Okay, I don't wanna be in this marriage anymore. I need to call this off. I want a divorce."
Oh, it looked like a lot of I'm a very stubborn person. And what I mean by that is I've become more flexible, but I'm stubborn in that I really needed to learn the lesson. I was like, give it to me again, give it to me again, give it to me again. And I'm also someone who really felt safe in pleasing and making people happy and seeing if I can fix the situation, and that's like the past me. And she's still in there. She's still in there sometimes, comes out, right? So I think what it looked like for me was a lot of the same old trying and masking and being in a role of fixer, mediator, doctor, therapy, um, lots of therapy, lots of couples work, then doing it again. I went through a period of shutting people out. I didn't want to talk to friends or people that were at my wedding because you almost don't know what to say. Once it's kind of like a funeral, weddings, funerals, big events, everyone comes. But soon the gifts are over. The money, like the checks are cashed. Your day's done. And then you're in your own life. And so there was a lot of coming to terms with the truth. And there comes a point where you can't run away from it. I started physically, actually, thank God, thank you, Hashem. A very, very, very healthy person. I think I take care of myself, but I started to get hives on my hands and on my feet. And I may still have pictures of it. And the hives were like itchy, like on top of my skin and on my feet, like right on. And for someone who doesn't go through life with that kind of stuff or any flares of those kinds of things, maybe some eczema because I love my gluten, but like, nothing like crazy. I was, like, dumbfounded. I remember going to, get my blood drawn, and I went to a dermatologist and whatever, and I knew what it was. It was stress that I was just kinda like, "No, not right now, not right now, not right," like, over and over and over, and there comes a point where you look around, and no matter what you have physically, you can't deny what's in front of you.
Yeah.
Unless you, like, dissociate completely, but, like, I couldn't, right? I was so unhappy. I was so, um I was just so unhappy, and there comes a breaking point, you know? And once that happens, it mobilized me into, like, the truth, and all of a sudden, you know what? I started talking to friends because I needed the support. I remember having a conversation with my best friend and my mother in the same night, and I was doing my same old complaining. Complaining, 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 complaining. And my mother and my best friend at the same time, like, not at the same time, it was a different conversation, but said to me the same thing. "Victoria, I can't tell you what to do. Like, this is deal with it. Like, this is your life. So if you're going to be that, like." And by the way, I was not in New York because I'm in New York now. I moved for this relationship. So I had reestablished a practice. I had
Makes it harder.
oh my god. I didn't really have friends around and things like this. And I just remember hearing that and putting the knife down because I was making salad and thinking, "Oh my god, like no one's going to come save me." This isn't
Mhm.
one of those like, "Should I date him? Should I not?" You're married. Like if you want to move forward and build, like that takes energy and work. So I think that those things together were very telling for me. And I really checked in. And as much as I wanted it to be a certain way, I couldn't deny the truth. And that's
Mhm.
where I really started to meet myself. And, the months that followed were not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that it was the right thing. And things started to just feel calmer. Even though there was so much chaos around me, within me, there was this sense of just pure cohesion and authenticity. And the road after that was long too. But
I'm sure. And I mean, the fact that you felt a sense of calm come over you, like that just goes to show you knew you were making the right decision, even though it was hard, even though there were a million things that it meant. It was like just like the hives, it was your body's way of saying, like, okay, before we were yelling at you to wake up and do something, and now we're saying, okay, that's what you had to do. I'm curious, did you ever feel any pressure because of the stigma around being divorced? Especially you got divorced at a young age. Like, did that ever come into your mind, or did you just know, like, I have to do this for me?
no, never. Um, I'm lucky. My brother and I are pretty lucky in that we had a really beautiful childhood and very dynamic and complex. We were refugee immigrants and, coming to this country. My parents, if you can believe it, were younger than me with two small kids and redoing it all. They are divorced and they're very, very close in many ways right now, both remarried and things like this. And I think that maybe that experience where it was a positive mostly, not all of it, my whole life, but mostly positive experience of people doing what is right for them. But also, I have to tell you, Alana, I'm a butterfly, and when I'm feeling like I'm in a mason jar, there is nothing that you can do. It's like whether it's a new couch that I need or Crate and Barrel definitely got my business this past weekend. If I need new, like, plates, if I need it or I've made a decision that this is not for me anymore,
Nothing
like,
stopping you.
nothing is stopping me. And I think that there is no, like, feeling of that at all. I mean, listen, people like, I remember talking to a guy on an app, like, not long after, and he's like, and I'm Jewish, and I was, speaking to a Jewish man, and he's like, I can't, we can't talk anymore because, and I'm like, why? And he goes, oh, my last name and where I come from, I'm a Cohen, I can't like date a divorced woman.
Wow.
Okay, right? Like, thank
That's for
you,
you.
filter.
Great.
Great, thank you for
Bye.
the filter. Bye.
That's fine.
Right? And I started to notice that, I owned it. I just own it. I still own it. I think it was one of the best experiences of my life. It was really a part of becoming me, and I'm still becoming me, but it was a part of my becoming. And so if it's not for someone, that's okay. That has nothing to do with me.
It's so cool
Yeah.
that you can sit here years later and say, like, getting a divorce was one of the best experiences of my life. Like, going through this, becoming who I am because of this. I think that's so powerful because we all go through things that we never expected, like it wasn't on our bingo card for our life. We never expected to be in that position, and we come out of it so strong, and we
Mhm.
learn so much more about ourselves through it. Like, I am the first to say, like, the heartbreaks I went through, what that put me into, like, complete depressions and took away, like, every aspect of my being. I wouldn't undo it for the life of me because it's what brought me here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's crazy and it's beautiful and it brings tears to your eyes sometimes because it just makes it so rich. Like, this is your
Yeah.
life. This is your life. Like when you leave this world, and I'm a very spiritual person, and, like you don't take anything but your lessons and who you've become with you.
Yeah.
That's it. And so, not to say that it wasn't, it was easy. It wasn't, but
It wasn't fun at most moments, but it got you
it was
here.
not fun. It got
Yeah.
me here. Yeah.
So, what has dating been like for you post divorce, especially as a therapist who understands people and relationship dynamics so deeply?
Alana, it's interesting because I've been going through an era of really, and I pay homage to my therapist. She's amazing, Wendy. Hello. Um, to really, really dig into being in the therapist mode a lot, and I think it's something that a lot of therapists, get made fun of. Like, oh, are you analyzing me? Um, Yeah, like, the truth is, yes, yes, we are, and there's nothing wrong with it, and we are analytical, smart people, and, you know, get over it kinda thing,
Well, the
but
reality is they're analyzing you too. You're just doing
yeah.
better.
I'm just doing it better. But you know what's funny? I was at an improv show at in the city, actually with someone that who was on your podcast. And we're sitting there and they always ask, I love UCB, and they always ask for a bid. So, they ask a question like, what are you looking for? I'm like, the love of my life. It's like I'm always looking for the love of my life. They're like, oh, tell us more. And I said, well, like they said, what would you like? I said, well, kind and, ambitious and, integrous and, yada yada. And I said, and tolerant. And they said, tolerant. And I said, well, I'm a therapist. They said, wait, a therapist and you want them to be tolerant? I said, well, because they have to be tolerant that I'm a therapist and, confident within their own self, like knowing that I am a therapist. And so when they did the skit, it was funny, but it was scary because the person who was playing me, they don't know me, but what a therapist would look like on a date, it was as if they were at dinner before the show with my friend. Because we get into the family stuff. We want to help you. We want to like and that's being in therapist mode is I'm learning for myself such a protective space to be because I'm the expert and I'm really good at what I do and I'm helpful and everyone loves a helper and I'm so but it's a very for me, masculine energy to be in because
Right.
I'm the director and I'm telling you. And on my dates, I really want to feel um like I'm receiving more than I'm giving sometimes. And it's hard not to be in therapist mode. And so there's a part of me that's like, what does it look like for me to be someone who's vulnerable and not just telling you the facts of my life, but getting vulnerable about the facts of my life. There's a
And
huge difference.
I imagine there's also a weirdness for yourself around, like, wanting to get to know the person and making it feel like a safe space for them to open up, but because you wanna get to know them and because they wanna share, not because you're good at getting people to open up.
I'm so good at it. People will always say things like, "Oh my god, I've said more to you than I have, like, to anyone ever." And I'm like,
You're
"Yeah,
so easy to talk to. I feel so comfortable with you.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." I really crave I mean, I've become better at it, but I think again, it's like that it's allowing, it's just kind of my friend sent me these questions that I actually filled out last night about a date that I went on recently, and all the questions are about how do I feel in the presence of this person?
Yeah.
Did I feel like I was, in my body? Did they make me laugh? All these questions that are about my experience, not the questions of does he like me?
Yep.
What did he think about me? Right? Which is what we tend to go into a lot of the time.
Absolutely. And when you can have that mindset shift of like, "Oh, how did I feel on this date?" versus did they laugh at my joke? Did they think it was weird that I said like that doesn't matter. It's do you feel good and do you want to see this person again because you had a good time with them and felt safe and felt comfortable. That's what it is.
That's
I
what it is.
I feel like I think about this so often now where like I married the person that I 1000% all the time from the beginning have felt comfortable with. And I think back to people I dated before him where all I could do was impress them. You know, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted them to think I was funny. I wanted them to think I was cool. I wanted to impress them. I wanted to dress to impress. I wanted to say all the right things. And I just never felt that way with Jake. And I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, like, all right, you might be looking at this the wrong way because you shouldn't have to like pine over somebody and win them over. You should be with the person that makes you feel the most you.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to know you and be
Mhm.
willing to get to know you and all the parts of you in order to be okay with someone getting to know you and seeing how those parts of you feel with that person. I mean, it's a very complex thing, but you're absolutely right. And a lot of the times we just want because of past stuff, I don't know you in terms of like your childhood and you don't know me, but we all have these trying to work so hard for people to love us
Yeah.
or trying so hard to win someone over and picking the ones that are making us work really hard for their love. And it feels so familiar and it feels so great. I mean, I got to tell you, when I was younger, I had these, requisites, kindness, integrity, um, loving, and adventurous. Like those are like really, really core for me.
Mhm.
And adventurous because I love fun. I love to have fun. I love to laugh. I love adventure. Not so much thrill seeking, but love new things exploring. And when I was younger, I didn't realize that it was just me loving to have fun. I was just so attracted to people who brought the fun, but that was because they were also not healthy in many ways, and they brought the drama alongside it.
Mhm.
And I got used to it thinking, if I wanna be with someone like this, who I can have fun with, I also have to put up with the drama. And
Right.
it's been a long-term, lifelong lesson practicing how to be comfortable in the calm.
Yeah.
Like what you said you have with Jake is such a beautiful, beautiful, foundation of safety and calm, you know?
It was hard to get used to. I remember, I mean,
Is
at least
it?
the whole first year, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, things are too good. Like
Mm.
something is going to go wrong. In fact, something has to go wrong because every single time it has. And so there's no way that things could be as good as I think they are because that's never been the reality.
Mhm.
It
So
was
typical.
hard. It was
It's
hard.
so hard. But
Yeah.
isn't it great when you are able to really ride the wave and, the person that you're with is able to maybe see through that
Yeah.
and
It's
stick yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
great.
really special. How have you been able to navigate, the fact that your life didn't necessarily go the way you thought it would? At one point, you were in your early 30s, you were engaged and you kind of saw this picture of like, here's what the rest of my life is going to be like. We're going to get married, we're going to do whatever for however long we're going to maybe have kids, start a family. And now here you are years later. Obviously, none of that happened. You're dating, you're this new better version for yourself of yourself. But we all have timelines that we want, and that can be a really difficult thing to work through, especially as women. So I'm curious how you have been navigating that as a single woman, as a divorced woman, when you still want the things that you want for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I could just cry about it right now. I want to be a mom so bad. And the biological clock is a real thing. And
It
we
is.
don't, my I did freeze my eggs, right? So I started to I did a lot more work, deeper inner work. I shifted therapists to someone who was more aligned with what I needed. So I got clear on what the inner work looks like for me. For me, it was shifting therapists to a more aligned approach and really getting in touch with my feelings in a deeper way so that I can, make decisions from a place of alignment and not from a place of fear, which was a lot of what was happening. Um, I started to recognize that, and I'm 40 now. So I started to recognize that there are things that I can do. I literally made a list of things in my control and out of my control. And I realized that the things that were out of my control, I was holding on the list of things that were in my control. And I recognized that the things that I can actually do are very limited. What can I do? I could take care of myself. I could take care of my relationships. I can get out there and date. I can have, dates on the count. I can make a plan, stick to the plan. But in terms of what happens and who turns the corner and how that date goes and what mood I'm in, and there are some things that we just have no control over. And so I started to learn how to surrender, but surrendering means being in meditative mode all the time, which is not me. I need to move. So I started to learn how to be more grateful for what I have. Very grateful. So really dipping into my relationships, family, friendships. I started going to a trainer and consistently moving my body in a way that I never thought was possible, really curing a lot of the issues that were created as a young girl in gymnastics with my body and just like doing it now, which is so beautiful. Um, Dating, right? So I'm doing the things that I can control. I froze my eggs. I went through that process, which was extremely difficult because I'm very phobic of needles. So I had a girlfriend come over who, gives herself vitamin shots and she showed me how to inject myself. And I have pictures that, and it was, I just, you laugh, you cry, it humbles you. It really humbles you. Um, and I have faith. Like I'm really working on trust, self trust, trust in the universe. And honestly, all of these things going on around us, really looking at what I have and how beautiful it is already. Like my life
Yeah.
is beautiful already, and whatever enters it, that's beautiful too. But it's not the same as it was before, where it's like, and I catch myself. Listen, my friends, you're in that mode again. And I'm like, oh, okay. The desperate mode, like when, because timing is of the essence. Once you
Right.
start, getting older, you start to feel that time. But that's my not burden to bear, but that's my lesson to learn is how to stay in the faith. So yeah.
I think that is so smart to, list out here's what I can control and here's what I can't because, you know, we can just have a passing thought of like, well, every year I'm getting old. Like I want to meet somebody and, me meeting somebody and falling in love is in my control. No, it's not. But it's so easy to think that we're the reason that things aren't happening or we're the reason that things are. And so to actually put it on paper and say, oh, wait, that's actually not in my control. What I can do is, hold myself accountable for trying to go on one date a week or going to an event or, putting myself out there, putting my phone down when I'm walking to, look up and see who's out there. And maybe I can talk to somebody, approach somebody. Like those are the things that are in your control. You can't
Mhm.
control if the person you meet is single or not, or is going to be the right person for you or not. And I think that is really powerful and helps, you know, make everything seem more exactly like in your control and tangible. Have you thought about, or what are your thoughts on having a baby on your own?
I think it's a very personal decision. I know a lot of people that have. I have clients that I've supported through that decision, and it really I had to sit down and really think very realistically, not
As you should.
hypothetically, right? Yeah, as I should, but, like, I didn't know how to do that. Like, how do you okay, let me take my, vision that I've always like, this movie in my head that I've always had playing, and then completely be like, "Ah, next," like,
Let's
cut
rewrite
to
it.
another,
Yeah.
like, possibility, and what I found for me is I really, 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 first and foremost, would love and cannot wait to be with an aligned partner, and through that and from that, everything else will come, and I don't know how a child or children are going to be in my life in that capacity. I've opened up myself to that, possibility of anything is possible. But I
Mhm.
think that that's very important for me. I think that in my life, that's the richness of the journey is growing in companionship with that as well for me.
Yeah.
But yes, I have thought about it, and I think about it often.
Well, I think it's beautiful that you thought about it. You took the time to intentionally, like, really think, is this what I want or not? And to come out of it with the answer of, like, what I really want is a partner to do life with. Like, that's you need to have that conversation with yourself, and maybe that wasn't the who knows what the easy answer is. There's no easy answer. This is life, and things happen and things don't happen. But I think that that's the most important thing to do, is to realize, like, first and foremost, what do you want? Because
Mhm.
this is your life and you should live
Mhm.
it because of what you want and what you need for yourself, not just, okay, well, this option hasn't worked out yet, so let me look at that option and maybe, like, shortcut something because I can, you know?
Shortcuts lead to short circuits.
Yeah. Love.
Yeah. Shortcuts lead to short circuits. I'm a living example of that. And people will look at me and be like, but you're so this and you're so that and you're success. And yes, but in the area of like, it's interesting. I help people build businesses that are very sustainable and successful. And I'll look at myself and say, how can I apply? And I've been doing this more and more. How can I apply the same gusto and faith and manifestation to my love life that I do
Yeah,
to my business? And it's the same principles of slowing it down, looking within, getting to know yourself, and just doing that inner work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing about love, marriage, relationships, based on what you know now from everything you've been through, your expertise, everything, what would it be?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. I love this question. The first thing that comes up is it's going to be more than okay. I would just want me to know that. Yeah, like more than okay. Like life is so beautiful, you know? And it's who you become. So to just continue doing that, touch points with myself and to know that it's going to be okay. Ever since I was young, that's been the most difficult part was the unanswerable question is it going to be okay? So I would want to reassure myself that yes, everything will be just fine.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. It's unanswerable. We can't promise ourselves that because we don't know, but if we stay, true to who we are and we do what we feel is right and is good, then you have to believe that it will be okay. 'Cause you're doing all the things to make it okay. And sometimes those things are hard, like the decision to leave a marriage, the decision to leave a job, the decision to pick up your life and move. These things are hard, but there's a reason that we do it.
Yeah.
And it's to make everything okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm,
and to
yeah.
trust that.
Yeah. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you were hoping to share?
Just that when regardless of where we are in our life, 2 things, regardless of where we are in our life, that authenticity, slowing it down, and really doing that work will lead to success. And anything other than that will not lead to success, that's for sure. It's gonna lead to a lot of pain. Um, and the other thing to know about therapists is that the more, and this is for therapists too who are listening, the more we are comfortable with sharing ourselves authentically with other people, um, the more driven other people will be, maybe to see us as therapists, but also to do their own inner work. People tend to think that therapists are not, human. Like I had a little girl that said to me, don't you live here? And I'm like, no, my dog and I go home and I have my condo and, no, I do not live on this couch. God, no.
Oh my god.
Right. Like this conception
Yeah.
that like we're just like, we're these we're not human, we don't have the same issues. Like, how is it that you're so successful here, but you're still not married and you don't have but we're human and we're
Mhm.
constantly evolving. And so whether you're seeing a therapist, whether you're seeing them for work or for pleasure and you're dating them, we're human and we're working through our things and we might be on a date with you and we might look like we have it all together, but inside where it's like that Julia Roberts, in Notting Hill, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love me, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just that vulnerable. And so to just remember that we're all just little people walking around trying to figure it out.
So well said, and I really do think that's a message that a lot of people need to hear, so thank you for sharing it. This has been so special. 2
Mm,
final questions before we go. The first being, what is the best piece of dating or relationship advice you've ever received or have to give?
holy cow.
I know we end on a hot note.
The best piece of dating advice that I received was actually very recently to go on a date, and whether or not the person is for you is not the point. The point is to just go and have fun. Like, have fun, look cute, laugh. And whether he's for you or she's for you or someone else that you might know, like that's the point of it, is just to get to know another human being. That really relaxed my spicy shoulders I just worked this morning, like, really relaxed it. Um, that was the best advice, and,
I
it made the
couldn't
experience
agree
so
more.
great.
Yeah. It takes the pressure off,
Yeah.
and it makes dating so much more enjoyable if you can just go
Mhm.
into it like, "Oh, I'm just going to meet someone and have a good time."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that is what you're doing. That actually is what you're doing. I
that's
love
the
that.
point.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. And finally, thank you so, so much for being here. This has been so wonderful and special. And I appreciate everything you shared so much. Where can everybody find you? And are you accepting new clients?
Sure. I'm very full right now, but always accepting phone conversations and, always referring out if I can't help someone. And you can find me at victoriagrinman.com or on Instagram, Dr. Victoria Grinman.
And if there are therapists listening who would love to work with you, how can
Yes.
they find you?
If you're a therapist and you are either evolving or thinking about private practice, or you're a coach or in the business of helping other people and you want to know how to grow, evolve, and learn from someone who's done it a million times over and very successfully, please get in touch with me. Same website, victoriagrinman.com. And I will lead you to clarity. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's my superpower.
Beautiful. And I will have all that linked in the show notes. Thank you, thank you, thank you again. And everyone, thank you for listening. Send this episode to a friend who needs to hear it. We all know someone who would learn so much from this. So please, please, please send it along.